Look, I'm not entirely sure who was sitting around going, I do miss Jersey Shore, but what I really wish I had is a Canadian spin-off of it. But Canada Shore premiered yesterday. And look, can Kelowna, British Columbia survive this? I'm not entirely sure. I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and this is Commotion. The wonderful group chat is here. Amil Niazi is here, and Mel Woods is here, and Hanna Flint is here. Hello, all of you. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
It's nice to have you here. I got to tell you, though, like on the way in, I was just thinking about like all the big pop culture stories this week. And of course, like to me, like one of the biggest ones, we don't even have time to talk about it, but Hudson Williams and Connor's story of heated rivalry yesterday announced as Olympic torchbearers at the same time as like, you know what? I was also seeing this like Wall Street Journal story saying that 15% of viewers of heated rivalry have watched an episode 5 or more times. I'm like, I don't know what's happening out there. That feels like a thing to return to at a different juncture in time because we have so much to talk about today. And we are going to start with this right here.
We've come from all over Canada to the country's #1 party spot. Kelowna, baby!
The lake, the sun, the vibes.
And parties everywhere.
Canada Shore is here. It premiered on Paramount Plus yesterday. Emil, I don't think anyone's ever said Kelowna, baby, exactly in that way before. What are your first impressions of Canada Shore?
I actually think people have said Kelowna, baby, in Kelowna many times.
Okay. All right.
First of all, I want to deeply apologize to the city of Kelowna for what's about to happen. You know, your image in the world is going to change for the 10 people that end up watching the show. I'll tell you, first of all, I felt instantly less intelligent after watching a little bit of this show. And, you know, the thing about Jersey Shore that was so interesting was it was like really a microcosm of a specific lifestyle that was already occurring on the Jersey Shore. Whereas with this show, they've basically taken the most desperate people picked them from across the country and placed them in Kelowna. And so I'm curious to see what happens like when it's not a natural scene. And it's going to be a lot of hosers and a lot of bro culture and a lot of screaming Kelowna, baby. I'm excited. I'm quite excited.
You're like,
myself.
I say all this and I'm on board. I will be watching the rest of this. I will say that like even though Canada Shore does introduce us to all these new cast of characters, it does bring us this one familiar face right here.
Lucky for us, our boss is a freaking legend. Surprise! No way our boss is Snooki.
Dad, I got arrested. These just aren't ready for me. Just listen then.
So what you have there is Snooki. Snooki herself. OG Jersey Shore star Snooki. And there's something about having Snooki back in the mix like this that makes me feel like I've gone through a bit of a time warp situation. But Mel, I gotta say, you're also originally from Kelowna, British Columbia. So allow me to ask you, pal, what is it like seeing your hometown represented as the party capital of the country?
There is such a dark-sided feeling to watching all of these panning shots and seeing my parents' condo building in the background as they're like panning around the edge of the lake. And I just keep on thinking about like my parents and their friends at the Kelowna Yacht Club, like while they're filming this last summer, like looking down from their patio and being like, why is this happening? We must report it to the Strata Council. Kelowna is a place that there is a certain level of like broy culture there. It's a vacation destination, but there's also just like a lot of rich white people who like wine and charcuterie and enjoying retirement. You know, it's an older demographic of a place. And so, yeah, like Emil said, it's so weird to watch all of these people transplanted in saying phrases like, it's like Miami, but with mountains. It's a phrase I've never heard uttered before. And watching Snooki walk through the Kelowna airport, where like I go 3 times a year to like visit my family, and it's Snooki at the Kelowna airport, is just like. And then in one episode, they're selling fruit at the fruit stand by the airport. It's just very surreal. And, you know, living in Vancouver, I get this sometimes with fictional media where you're like, oh, that's Vancouver in the background. But there's just something about them framing Kelowna as a party destination when it has like one main street. They go to a club and I'm like, is that the one club in Kelowna? Like this is not necessarily the big party zone. But like Emil said, pray for the people of Kelowna, because anybody who watches this show is going to go there. The bachelorette parties are going to multiply. It is going to be a dark, dark time for Kelowna in the coming summers if people think that they can go behave like this there and that that's the norm.
I'm hearing a trip being planned for next summer. All of us are going to Kelowna. That's really what I'm hearing right now.
Oh, we got to rent one of those tiki boats. We got to like zoom past all the boomers. Yeah.
Emil's like, I'm already in all of this. I will say, like, Hannah, there's something about the Jersey Shore formula that is, on the surface of it, is begging to sort of be transplanted to somewhere else. Like the idea of like, go find somewhere else because there will be parties there. Let's try to replicate this formula. So they did it, right? They did that in Brazil. They did Rio Shore. They did the British version, Geordie Shore. And then now we've got...
Oh, right, hold on.
Okay,
Geordie
sorry.
Shore.
Geordie Shore.
No, I
Geordie Shore.
and I apologize. And my deepest apologies to the people of the Geordie Shore. And then now you have Canada Shore.
Newcastle remembers.
No, I do. I'm unfamiliar with your game. That's what's happening here. But then we have this one, and then you have, so when you watch Canada Shore, you're kind of like, oh, this didn't need to happen. How are you feeling about it?
Well, I should say I do have Canadian family, and this doesn't feel that representative of my Canadian brethren.
No.
And I think what's interesting is my memories of Geordie Shore and Jersey Shore was just how chaotic and prone to violence and punch-ups and things like that. And I guess this cast are maybe a little bit more polite. Part of that could be because they don't know each other. And it goes what you were saying, I mean, like the whole point was supposed to be this kind of snapshot of this kind of crew of people who have like deep links to each other, roots with each other. Whereas these feel like they've gone with this sort of Love Island approach to casting. Let's just bring in some quite hot people with buff bodies and then throw them together. And I know it's not like a dating show per se, but there is that kind of element of they're all going to hook up. My favorite thing though, and actually Mel, you reminded me of this, is when you mentioned charcuterie, and my favorite bit when Lila's like, oh my God, they've got the charcuterie. And so, you know, there are moments where I'm like, I kind of love this. So I guess after watching a couple of episodes, I'm kind of hoping that it kind of makes good on the kind of legacy of real, like, out there rivalries, like, you know, hits, throwing, smashing things, and then coming together because they've got hearts of gold, you know. But
also, just like, to talk about the hookup thing, Hannah. Like there's a gay character in the show, and I don't think I've seen that before in the Shore variations. How does that change the dynamic of the casting, do you think?
Well, I really feel for Christopher, even though he's clearly such a fame, like, hungry person. And I love the fact he's like, I don't want a job. I just want to, like, be famous. I gave up dancing because I'm lazy. And I think you really saw it in one of the moments where they've woken up in the morning and Christopher's in the double bed. And I think Emmett comes back from the, jungle room where he's hooked up with Riley. And he's just staring at them all, like, going, yeah, so did you bang her? Did you, like, have sex? And he's just looking at them, like, in disgust. It's like, why am I here? And I think they could have at least have another gay character in there, or at least have some more diversity there, because it's not really fair. There is this hookup culture. Who's he going to hook up with unless one of them's like closeted and likes to fool around when he's a bit drunk?
Well, there's something to that idea, though, that like in order for a show like this to work, you actually do need to cast it really, really well. Amil, when you sort of think about this real quickly, what's your take on the casting of Canada Shore?
I actually think that they've chosen some really good people. You know, Hannah mentioned the violence and the chaos of Jersey Shore and Geordie Shore. And I do think that there is violence and chaos amongst this cast. You know, Emmett, who is a total bro, but also wears leopard print all the time. Like, I feel like he could be our bisexual character, hopefully, fingers crossed. But no, I think they've done a good job. And a lot of the characters are from Mississauga, which I think is actually the true Jersey Shore of Canada. So maybe we can recreate some of the Mississauga magic over in Kelowna.
Mississauga, famously not a shore, actually, by the way. But I'm
Does that matter?
No, not to me. I'm just gonna completely bypass that. Mel, let me ask you. Even though there's a big part of like the whole sort of Jersey Shore appeal is Yeah, these people, their lives are a bit messy, but also like they kind of care for one another, and they are kind of connected to one another, and there's a sort of deep interconnected sense of like why you want to watch that show. When we talk about this thing, these sort of transplants in Kelowna, your hometown, like when you sort of like watch them in this space, do you kind of go, you know what, I do want to spend more time with these people, or you're like, no, I think I'm out.
I mean, I agree with Love Island as an analogy for casting here, where I wonder about a version of this show that is all Kelowna bros, and it's like one of them works at a weed shop, and one of them runs the Sea-Doos at the beach, and like there are enough bros in Kelowna to populate something. And a big appeal of the original Jersey Shore is that even though they didn't all necessarily know each other in advance, they come from this shared kind of Italian-American culture and this shared regional culture, and the connections between this bro from Saskatchewan and this girly from Nova Scotia and then these people from Mississauga is like you're really putting a lot of different. Canada's so big and there's so much of Canada. So I don't know how much the chemistry works. It feels very, but I also love reality TV. You know, I watch Below Deck. They put a bunch of random people on a yacht and then they all kiss and it's great. So like I'm okay with that existing as a show. I will say what I'm most looking forward to is watching 1 to 2 of these people on the Traders Canada in 2 to 3 years. That feels like the ultimate pipeline. Like bring Christopher to the Traders Canada and there he will find some nice gays. And that is what I am looking forward to with these people in the culture to come.
Mel already preemptively casting for Traders Canada season 3. I'm obsessed. I cannot wait. This is delightful. Okay, we're going to move on to the next topic. Please have a listen to this.
So your parents is David and Victoria Beckham. That is amazing. I mean, we can't imagine that, right? Did you travel a lot of places? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I was always very lucky enough to be able to travel to these, amazing places. I love traveling, so I was lucky enough to be able to do that.
Brooklyn Peltz Beckham. Hey, what's it like having the Beckhams as your parents? Well, traveling was pretty good. That's what an answer. Earlier this week, we very, very publicly got to the downsides of having the Beckhams as your parents. In this Instagram post, Brooklyn post, listen, my parents, prioritize the fame and the brand a little bit too much, and they prioritize it above everything else. He said they tried to sabotage his relationship with his wife, Nicola Peltz Beckham. Brooklyn said, point blank, I do not want to reconcile with my family. Hanna, you're in London. This story is front page news. Give us a sense of, first of all, what made Brooklyn get to this point?
Can I just say it reminds me of Gavin Stacey, and there's a line where Amanda says to her husband, like, it's the drama, Mick, I love it. And I think that is definitely the vibe that everyone has seen, the kind of massive reaction to this, because the Beckhams, they are our working class royalty, working class done good family. I mean, I'm a Man United supporter. Obviously, I'm 37, so I've grown up.
No one's perfect. It's all right, Okay.
But I love, like, Bex, he was my guy, and then obviously Posh Spice. And I think, we have to remember with this family is that they sold Brooklyn's baby pictures to OK magazine before he was born. There was the big wedding photos, the iconic ones in their Beckham Palace. They have very much, curated this image that is Brown Beckham, and they've used their kids to really push that narrative, especially when there's so many kind of stories and allegations about David's kind of extramarital goings on. I think what's happening here is that it kind of reminds me of, reading an Am I the Arsehole thread. Do you know what I mean? It's like, my mum is doing these things. Am I the arsehole in this situation? Apologies if you're not allowed to say that on air. But I think he's just got to the point, they're tabloid fodder. They sell papers. And what we've seen over the last few years is just how much of a story it has been about this relationship. And to be honest, I will, could probably guarantee that both sides have been leaking stories. There's been little bits here and there, the Domoir, the kind of the Sun tabloid stuff here and there. But I kind of feel for him in a way because, there's a big push nowadays where people want to go no contact with their family. I think now there's a generational divide where the older generation, I definitely feel kind of here are a bit more like, well, if I speak to Mick, who I kind of help out, volunteer with at the local homeless shelter, who's a chef, he did not have a kind word to say about the spoiled little brat. But I guess more people, maybe like my age, millennials or younger, kind of understand that really hard dynamic where, he's super privileged, but he didn't have a choice, right? And I just don't think it's great parenting if you're kind of catering to every whim of your child where, your son is clearly bad at taking photographs, but let's help him launch a photography book.
But
Your son is not the best chef, but let's help him platform this chef skills. And I think that's what the annoyance with a lot of people is, that whereas David and Victoria really grafted,
yeah.
they've let him get away with things so easily. So I can understand both sides of it. But I think for Brooklyn, it's his life. He's an adult now. And if your parents have not really set you up to succeed in a way on their own, I can understand why he might be like, this is my wife, whether you like it or not. You know, I'm here with her. So I get it.
I am of two minds about this, Amil. On the one hand, the details are so unhinged, right? Like one of the things that Brooklyn posted in that Instagram post is he said, "At my wedding, my mom hijacked my first dance. She got on stage and she started dancing with me in a way that was completely inappropriate." And you read that and you go, are you telling me the Posh Spice was, I don't know, twerking at this wedding on her son? Like, what? It's like the imagery that is being invoked here, because there's no video of this wedding. So like, you're just left to go, okay, the version that Brooklyn is telling me is actually quite wild. And then on the other hand, the thing that Hanna just said, like, at what point are your kids entitled to their own lives outside of the frame and outside of the brand that your parents have kind of built, no matter how big and successful that brand is? You're a parent, you know, you're watching this story unfold. How are you thinking about it, Amil?
Well, it's so interesting to like get an inside look at a family like this, right? It's basically like getting a look into the Vatican or the royal family, as Hanna mentioned. You know, this is a family that is both very public about their brand, but also very private about any actual information about who they are and how they live their lives. Like, they don't really actually share very much about themselves. So for him to put this out in the open, it must be devastating for them as parents, because, you know, no matter how dramatic it sounds, I think as a family, you're so sort of conditioned to be like, hey, what happens in the family stays in the family, and you're not really supposed to talk about your home life out in the public space. So I think it must be really difficult for them as parents. On the other hand, obviously, they sound terrible in many ways. But Brooklyn Beckham is charmless. You saw in that video, he can't even push this narrative well. The photographs really keyed me off. He isn't talented. He doesn't really have much to give to
There's
the public
no David,
space.
I'll tell you that.
And so I think it's difficult for people, if he had charm, if he was like a Timothy Chalamet, let's say, I think people would be on his side. But because he really has nothing to offer anyone in the world except for his wife, I think we're a little bit on Team David and Victoria's side, because you're like, as a parent, I kind of understand like my idiot kids out in the world talking all this trash, but I gave him everything he wanted. Like, what am I supposed to do? You know, I did my best. That's how I'm looking at it. It's like, hey, if I'm the parent, it's like, I did my best. He's your problem now, world.
Amil really got on public radio and said, Brooklyn does not have the sauce, unfortunately. He cannot pull whatever this thing is.
It's so funny you say that, though, because I remember when David Beckham, obviously uber talented, one of the world's greatest football players, but the minute he opened his mouth, everyone was like, he sounds like he's got no source. Like, there were so many things that he didn't get because he was not charismatic. He's obviously very talented in every way. I think he's worked on that as he's got older and obviously had a team around him. But it's kind of funny
that's why Victoria never talks. She's like, I don't want you to know how dumb I am.
And for the longest time, David himself never talked. He was very good at posing, very good at just being like, look at the face, look at the football skills. Okay, that's the end of the story here. Mel, last word to you. Where do you stand on this? Are you like, actually, free Brooklyn, low-key?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Okay.
I hard agree. Again, there are famous people's children who are not in the public eye and who have successfully removed themselves from the public eye and said, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm gone. That's fine. We see them all the time. There's many of them we don't even know their names, and that's great. We know Brooklyn Beckham's name because he wants us to know his name. We know about his bad photography because we want to know about his bad photography and his chefing and everything going on with Nicola. And so I similarly have little patience because it's like, you kind of asked for it. Like, you can't remove yourself from the narrative that you've like built. Yes, your parents have been like crafting this for you, but you could, when you became an adult, you could have removed yourself from this and you leaned in harder. And so these are kind of the repercussions of what you're getting.
I was going to move on. It looks like Hannah was about to offer a slight defense of Brooklyn.
But I think you kind of pulled it up at the end there. It's like, yeah, these kids have literally had their whole lives on screen, in magazines. There's an expectation there. I mean, it kind of suggests that even what Brooklyn was saying, that there was a control of what the type of things they could do. So again, I don't want to kind of make any assumptions about it, but I think, you know, there's a difference where you have like Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman with Maya Hawke with her. Obviously, she became on her own right, but she wasn't really like floated around. There's a way I think parents should be saying, actually, let's not do this. Let's not, you know, I think just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I think in a way that then maybe they could have been a bit harder on that and said, well, hold on a second. Or they wanted it because it feeds into their image of like, we're this creative family. Look at us, got this kind of talent. And maybe they couldn't see it. It's like when people go on the X Factor or Pop Idol and you've got the family waiting beside. It's like, how did you let them go on stage with that voice? I'm always like, what? They can't sing. Why are you enabling
You're
this?
setting them up to fail. Yes.
It's like, but do you know what I mean? And it's embarrassment. It's big public embarrassment. So I think there's a sense of like when your parents have cast such a high shadow, you feel like you maybe need to do it. And maybe he's made someone choices. But I do think that like as a parent, you should be a little bit stricter in that way and it's like give them the real talk that they need to have, you know, and then fund them to do something that's maybe a little less high profile.
That's why, like, honestly, like to me, like my favorite nepo baby is Bono's daughter because you can watch her in many different films or TV shows, not know she's Bono's daughter, and go like, oh, that actress is having a great time on the screen. And her name is Eve Hewson. You've seen her in films, you've seen her in TV shows, and there is nothing specifically that ties her to Bono in the public eye. I'm like, that's the way it kind of should be. Okay, but I can't let you guys go before talking about the Oscars nominations, and we only got a couple of minutes left. So we are going to talk about this movie that is leading the pack of nominations.
This world already left you for dead. I can save you from your fate.
You don't need no saving.
Yes, you do.
And you are?
I am your way out.
A record 16 nominations for Sinners. 16 nominations. Forget Titanic. It's you know, it's like it left it so far behind. But Titanic, by the way, had 14 nominations. Sinners comes along and says, no, we can do 2 more. So Hannah, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that like Sinners was not the big winner of the Golden Globes last week. It picked up a couple awards in some of the smaller kind of categories, but it kind of felt like everything is leading up to one battle after another. And then you see all this gigantic stack of nominations for Sinners, by the way, including Delroy Lindo, nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Absolutely incredible nomination. He had an amazing role in that. Talk to me about how you're feeling about this matchup of Sinners and One Battle After Another and what this sort of, you know, record-breaking number of nominations tells you.
Well, I think it's fantastic. I love Sinners. I think if it doesn't end up winning Best Picture after getting all these nominations, it's kind of asking the question, why not? I think it's amazing that Autumn Gerald Arkapour has become the first woman of color nominated for a cinematography award.
Yes.
And what I love is that Ryan Coogler has helped Ruthie Carter get an Oscar win.
Yes.
Hanna, who is I forget her second name, sorry, it slipped my mind, but she's the production design. She won an Oscar for Wakanda Forever, I think it was.
Yeah.
And now that with Autumn, so he's this real ally of like putting women and women of color in spaces and getting nominations.
Yes.
My biggest thing about One Battle versus Sinners is that Sinners is a film about white supremacy and capitalism made for Black people, and One Battle After Another is a film about white supremacism and capitalism made for white people. So I feel like that's probably why One Battle maybe is like tipping over. I think a lot of, you know, because I think a lot of the award season, you know, and especially in America, we know the demographics. I think that's like kind of a safer bet. They feel like they're part of the, you know, they're part of the critique, whereas Sinners is like, you're the problem. So I think maybe that could be a factor in it, but I really hope it does well. And I really love it if Delroy gets it, but also Stellan Skarsgård, I do adore. And I feel like he's probably going to get it for sentimental value.
Emil, I like this framing that Hannah just put forward, this idea of one is about white supremacy and capitalism for white people, and then the other one is for Black people. I think it also goes into who's making those movies, this idea of Sinners and One Battle After Another kind of being pitted against each other. Who are you rooting for when March rolls around and it's finally time for the Oscars?
I'm going to be rooting for Tiana Taylor. I think this is her year. I think, you know, picking up the Golden Globe was such a wonderful moment. And I'm someone that loves a good speech. And I think, she gave a great speech at the Globes. I think she'll give a great speech at the Oscars, and we're going to get to watch her celebrate all night long. And that's just always a highlight for me. And similarly, I am rooting for Timothée Chalamet because I really, really need him to thank Kylie Jenner at the Oscars. And whatever he's going to say about her, he's called her his foundation. He calls her his partner. Whatever he says about Kylie at the Oscars is going to be so beautiful. And so I'm rooting for those two big time.
When Timothy walks on that stage, you'll just be like, okay, here it is. The moment we've been finally waiting for. The words Kylie Jenner being said on the Oscar stage.
Right? And we're going to get to pan to her and she's going to be like, make a face that has no expression because she's Botox to the nines. And it's going to be just so wonderful. And I love them as a couple. Like they're the Justin and Katy Perry of America to me.
What if he proposes on stage? That would be the pinnacle.
That'd be the greatest day of Emil's life. That'd be incredible.
Yeah. And then she gives birth like right after he says that. I know how to produce a reality show.
Okay, Mel. Also, I guess we should ask, like, how did Canadians fare at this year's Oscars?
I mean, it was basically a shoo-in, but I'm happy for K-pop Demon Hunters. I think a lot of people miss the Canadian connection of that. I love heated rivalry as much as the next guy. Like, don't get me wrong, Canadian national treasure. K-pop Demon Hunters is also a Canadian national treasure.
Yes.
Director Maggie Kang is Canadian. It was largely animated in studios in Montreal and in Vancouver. I have like friends of friends of friends here in Vancouver who worked on the movie. And it's one of those like small indie creative projects that reminds me of Turning Red a few years ago, where you kind of see this Asian Canadian director take this vision to life, and the cultural juggernaut that it has become in this past year, it is going to be a cakewalk to a Best Original Song.
Yeah.
The animated feature category is always a little weird sometimes. Sometimes more of an arty side one will come in over top of the kind of cultural juggernaut in this way.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to watching Golden at the Oscars. It's going to make me happy. It's going to make every child in the world happy. And I think that's just a gift and a treasure to be able to ride out this Oscar season a little bit more. The success for the songwriters, but yeah, on the Canadian angle specifically, like, it's so great to see Maggie Kang getting flowers and hopefully getting a whole bunch more money to make more stuff like this in the future.
Thanks for that reminder that we get to see Golden on the Oscars day. I forgot that we get to see that. Emil, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, like, to Mel's point, I have 3 kids and all 3 of them love this movie, but especially my 5-year-old. And now my 2-year-old will go, Alexa, play Golden. And it's, and then they all dance, and it's, wow. What, like, I'm rooting for this movie so hard.
And it's going to like open the Oscars. Like, it's going to be like how the show opens for sure. Or you're going to say, Hannah, sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I love the idea that the Oscars are finally going to get that youth demographic with K-pop Demon Hunters. Finally, we've got the kid.
At last, this is what it took. Okay, before I let you guys go, quickly 2 minutes to do recommendations. Amil Niazi, just what would you like to recommend, pal?
Well, just in keeping with the theme of reality TV, Vanderpump Rules. It obviously famously took over the cultural conversation when, one of the Toms cheated on his longtime girlfriend. But it's back with a new cast. And, we all sort of grumbled and said, they can't recreate that same magic. Well, you know what? They kind of have. It's been pretty great. I've been watching, and I'm rooting for this new cast. And I think you'll really like it. If you want good reality TV, watch Vanderpump Rules.
Delightful. Hannah, what about you? What do you got, pal?
Well, I will say it's the Traitors finale UK here this evening, so that has been living rent free in my mind. But in a more kind of literary offering, I am reading Leila Slimani's The Country of Others. I really love her. She's a French-Moroccan author. She did Adele, Lullaby, that was made into a film. This is a really great kind of character study of a French woman in post-World War II who marries a Moroccan man, moves to Morocco, and we get into this kind of culture clash. And I just love the way she does characters that are really these women who are quite messy, chaotic, super sexual. And I think her writing is just mesmerizing. So I really recommend that.
Mel Woods, take us home, pal. What do you got?
I mean, I feel like we don't always think about newspaper comic strips, but I'm here to recommend Nancy. And Nancy, the comic, has been around for like 93 years and has been shepherded by various artists over its tenure. And starting at the beginning of 2026, it's been taken over by Carolyn Cash, who is this lesbian cartoonist. She's like 30 years old. She's very well known for making a series called Pee Pee Poo Poo.
Great.
She's great and has a great sensibility. And seeing this kind of filter of this very broad appeal of a newspaper comic strip kind of filtered through her sensibility, but still with this huge amount of broad appeal has been such a delight. They're every single day because it's a newspaper comic strip.
Yeah.
She's posting them on her Instagram at cash_browns, CASH_browns. Highly recommend people go follow. It just makes me smile every time I see a new Nancy. And they're not overly complicated. It is 3 panels of just like a silly little gag, but really filtered through this kind of millennial sensibility that I am just enjoying so much.
I love the range of these recommendations. You guys have been a delight. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being here today. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Mel Woods is a senior editor at Extra Magazine in Vancouver. Amil Niazi is a writer at The Cut and author of the new best-selling memoir, Life After Ambition. She's in Toronto. And Hanna Flint is a film critic and author of Strong Female Character, What Movies Teach Us. She's based in London, UK. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. We'll see you on Monday.